and welcome to Wednesday Debate Live with Taghreed Hussein here on Nile TV International. Tonight we'll be talking sustainability, Egypt's sustainable future, inspired by the achievements of the ancient Egyptian civilization and also linking the past with the present and the future. The Sustainable Development Strategy in Egypt, Egypt's Vision 2030, is representing the right path towards inclusive development, as well as the roadmap for maximizing the competitive advantage to achieve the dreams and the aspirations of Egyptians. While there are improvements on many fronts, sustainable development management is remaining a very essential component to ensure Egypt's national projects and policy reforms. Egypt took great steps in the direction of the vision, applying the Vision 2030, undertaking reforms in the different paths, including building infrastructure, highways, constructing remote areas in order to boost the economy further. So Egypt's future and sustainability is mainly a strategy that has been developed according to a planning approach that is taking into consideration the rights of the new generations in a prosperous and a quality life for all Egyptians. Tonight, I have all the honor and pleasure of having with us Professor Dr. Mohamed Naguib Abu Zaid, Professor of Construction Engineering at AUC. Hello, Dr. Abu Zaid.
Hello, and nice being here with you.
Thank you so much. A pleasure is all mine. And together we'll be talking new cities, we'll be talking sustainability and the future, how resilient cities are really crucial for the sustainable future, how Egypt's sustainable development strategy is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So in light of the different successes that we have achieved at COP27 and more, this is tonight's topic. And before delving into tonight's topic, we'll read more about the presidential activity of the day. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi directs to expedite the steps of acquiring the manufacturing capacity of the prosthetic limbs and devices. Ambassador Bassam Radi, the spokesman for the presidency of the Republic, had stated that President al-Sisi is following the steps to localize the industry of the limbs and devices. Ambassador Radi added that President al-Sisi directed the acceleration of the steps to acquire the manufacturing capacity of prosthetic limbs and devices in accordance with the internationally approved standards, regardless of the financial cost and the economic challenges. The President also directed to localize this industry through the establishment of an integrated industrial complex to provide that mobile service to every person in need of it, taking into account the possibility of developing and the industrial complex. This will become a regional center to present that humanitarian message to all countries of the region. Still with the leading stories and the main headlines, Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli on Wednesday held a press conference with the heads of the international financial companies that operate in Egypt. Madbouli said that the state is keen on broadening cooperation with the international companies as well as enhancing investment in information technology. The Prime Minister said that the government had established an economic zone for information technology. In the press conference, the Minister of Communication and Information Technology, Dr. Amr Talat, said that the third pillar of Egypt's strategy is digitalizing services of all sectors through the internet platforms. The minister said that the state is keen on upgrading communication services to be presented at high quality. And back to our topic, talking sustainability and the future. I have all the pleasure of having with us Professor Dr. Mohamed Naguib Abu Zaid, Professor of Construction Engineering at AUC. Dr. Naguib, well, the success of Egypt at COP27 was like amazing, a top leading story throughout the whole world. And there are many gains of Egypt's success at COP.
Definitely. First, I would like to say that Egypt's success in COP27 was actually on a different and multiple dimensions. Organization of the event itself, the brilliant choice of Sharm el-Sheikh, which was and is always amazing for everyone, including the Egyptians who would go there for the event. And the event itself, the content of the event, the organization of the event, the flow, the nice flow of ideas, of creativity, interaction with individuals, it was amazing. Of course, there is the political element that Egypt contribute to, but the whole world has to take part in it, trying to resolve some complex issues. And it was, the world was in Egypt, and I think Egypt, remember also towards the end, there was a great effort by the Egyptian leadership to try to mediate and coordinate and moderate and narrow the gaps between different points of view in that. So it was a success, multiple faceted and dimensional success. I was, and I think every Egyptian should be very proud of what has happened and actually build on it, because that's just a step on the road.
Yes, definitely. We were really all proud to share and you know, to feel the vibes ourselves at the different booth at COP27. This sense of brainstorming with intellectuals, with people in the field. The youth were there. It was
Yes.
like, you know, flowing with ideas, engineering and climate change.
Yes.
Is there a special equation?
Definitely. I will just go back to the previous sentence of yours. The youth were not only there, it was actually mainly the youth, and others were around them. So
Right.
you would see the youth of Egypt in particular and in the world, because they are the future, definitely. These are not slogans and so on. They are the future who will actually benefit from these efforts. And heaven forbid will suffer if we haven't done a good job in that. You put your hand on a key question, engineering and climate change and sustainability. For many, many decades, engineers and many other professions have been striving for success, for achievement, for technical excellence in whatever field it is or otherwise, but we were not looking that closely, that prudently to the environment, to sustainability, to what will happen in the future for the other generations and so on to follow. And of course, countries, big countries, particularly the first world and the developed countries, were and still actually on the race for increasing their GDP and so on, but on the expense of the environment, and with a lot of, for example, carbon dioxide, with a lot
Emissions,
of
yeah.
emissions, with a lot of waste and so on. So it's opportune moment for the world to take an action, and actually should have been like, this should have been 2 decades at least before, but at least we have to do the best under the circumstances.
We were, you know, Egypt was shining, and that was the greatest feeling about COP27. Well, I had all the honor of interviewing heads of state, prime ministers, many important personalities and COP, and they were saying that it was, as you've just mentioned, Dr. Abu Zaid, that it is an opportune moment now for the world. And what is great about the story is that it comes from the mother of the world. So the mother of the world is leading solutions for the whole world, for a healthier planet, let me say. Those initiatives, at the same time that has been discussed, this sense of dynamism that has been at the different sessions, though they were like 18 days, but it was like a click. Every day there is a very rich program.
Yes.
So
you talked about 18 days. Let's remember that we even needed to extend at least one more day, two days, because we wanted to wrap up the findings. And so you actually articulated very well. Days pass by quickly because also the volume of the issues are not small, and that's one of the issues that really the whole world is all have to put hand in hand to try to resolve the drawbacks, the negative impacts, and so on. One thing I want to say, actually, because I was so touched also by the video or the shooting had before, and with His Excellency the President, with the humanitarian, among many other acts, and with trying to help those with special needs, and having the manufacturing here in Egypt and so on. I have seen that also very much in Sharm el-Sheikh, and I think it's not only me. See how and I want to take the opportunity in your nice program here to salute the people who not only organized, but our security individuals there.
Yes.
How effective they were and how human they were, and I have seen them how they were helping people in a way that I haven't seen honestly anywhere. And we were all looking with admiration, and we had to stop and say them, God bless you, you're doing, thank you for doing that. So the image of Egypt in your nice introduction was there.
Yes.
And this is actually the real Egyptians. What we see every now and then with incidents that are a bit negative and so on, that's not us, that's somebody else. But the Egyptians were there, spirit, mind, creativity, and so on. I would like to also to delve into an important point you mentioned about the opportunities. I will give you just one example. I know one ambassador of one major, let's say, developed country. He visited our, let's say, part of the climate change, let's say, stand and so on, several times. Because countries, and that's smart, that's good, they are trying to grasp and put their hand on new ideas, creativity. These are how inventions come in. That's how countries will develop themselves. So you know, and the viewers know, green economy, green jobs, green opportunities.
Yeah.
Egypt was the place for that, and that's our launching pad, inshallah.
Yes, our launching pad, green, we're going green, we're going smart. And this brings us also to green cities. From the eyes of an engineer, how can green cities create a sense of change? How can it make the future healthier with a better quality of life?
Another great question. Green cities, first of all, it's the future. In other words, very few countries in the world will be building cities that are not green. Why? Because the whole world not only moving in that direction, but there's going to be some restrictions, not internationally speaking. It's like banning buying products from countries who use child labor. It's banning living in a house or in a city that's not environmental friendly. Green cities has a lot to offer. First of all, using the renewable energy there, and Egypt is on top of the African countries and the countries in the region trying to make use of that. One, or actually the two words that I heard the most in COP27, not only me, I think everybody else, green hydrogen.
Yeah.
Green hydrogen, I was amazed by the magnitude of interest that others are talking about green hydrogen, and Egypt, Morocco, South Africa were and are the three main players in the continent for that, maybe in the region. So opportunities for investment. Green cities will not rely on fossil fuel for electricity. As a matter of fact, they should be able to give electricity to the grid for others to use it. Export electricity to other countries that have less sun, for example, or less wind than what we have. Far less use of non-friendly materials. Waste, reducing the waste that we have everywhere. So there is a lot, and the quality of life. I liked again in your introduction when you talked about the quality of life.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we have number of years, inshallah, with health and good life and so on. But the quality of life, how do you want to live the pollution, the greenery in this city and elsewhere, and the ability to move freely without congestion in traffic, with smart, and as you said also eloquently, smart in the way. I know that at 9, 12, for example, it's the best time to go because everything is prepared. It would be less traffic. I will find parking. I will not go into wasted time and energy in the wrong direction. That's part of a whole package within a green city in the future.
Yes, going smart and going green and having quality of life, because this is the main objective. The main objective also of the president is watching for a better life, a quality of life for all Egyptians, preserving the Egyptian identity. And this is what Dr. Abu Zaid was talking about, this sense of identity, this civilized culture of the Egyptians was very much apparent at COP27. We'll watch this report talking sustainability, sustainable development, Egypt's path to the future, and we'll be back.
Egypt has realized a significant number of changes over the past decade, looking towards policy for development that emphasizes its Vision 2030 strategy, which highlights the importance of investing in human development. Sustainable development management as a foundation for Egypt's economic, social and environmental future is one of the state's top priorities, along with the investment in human development to ensure long-term successes and improvement in the lives of the Egyptians. Egypt's urbanization story has evolved to be an inspiring one of how a country can take a proactive role in urbanization, utilizing its resources while pushing for sustainability. Egypt is one of the first countries that acknowledged the challenges facing its cities and demonstrated its commitment to sustainable urban development. It was one of the first countries to adopt the new urban agenda, which was agreed upon in 2016 during the United Nations Conference on Housing and Sustainable Urban Development, Habitat 3, and subsequently one of the earliest countries to submit national progress reports on the implementation of the agenda. In line with Egypt's new urban agenda, the country has set national urban visions, strategies, Egypt Vision 2030, and the National Strategic Urban Plan for 2052 that responds to Egypt's need to integrate all policies, plans, and legislation in both urban and rural areas under one comprehensive development strategy. Over the past few years, Cairo has undergone a wave of state-led, demand-driven projects of informal settlements, upgrading, establishing new communities, rehabilitation of heritage areas, large public transit projects, infrastructure mega projects, and social welfare programs, all of which being guided by Egypt's Vision 2030, which is ultimately driven by the Sustainable Development Goals. To accelerate the achievement for the SDGs and to reinforce the concept of leaving no one behind, Egypt was successful in cutting poverty with the help of better targeted social protection programs. In this regard, Egypt launched the presidential initiative A Decent Life, the largest national development project of its kind, as it aims to bring about sustainable and positive change in the lives of 58 million Egyptians through the comprehensive development of more than 4,500 villages.
سيدات مصر العظيمات، تحية وإجلالا للمرأة المصرية، صوت ضمير الأمة والحارس على وجدان الوطن، وكانت سعادتي تمتزج
there in the Delta. So going on the line with sustainability and creating those beautiful smart cities, fourth generation cities, and among them New Mansoura City.
Yes. New Mansoura City is one of several new cities like New Minya, New Aswan, and almost all the governorates have now a new city that's there, and many of them are having like desert kind of backyard for growth and for land reclamation and so on. As the viewers have seen, we're talking about a city, and that links back to your earlier question. You're talking about a nice modern area. You don't see so much of buildings and so narrow of streets. So it's the opposite. Bigger streets, wider, more greenery. Areas, exactly, areas for movement, for walking, for sports and so on. So the city will not be green and smart and sustainable unless the people who live there would feel that and would enjoy that. So that's part of the what's happening actually in New Mansoura. And look at the area, talking about 7,000 plus Fidan, so we're talking about a large area. One thing I want the viewer not to miss is that we're talking about over there about so many establishments, but on top of that, a stage or an area for water treatment, We need to treat the water, because Egypt do not want to build this city and rely on our limited sources of fresh water. So we deal with treatment of desalination projects and otherwise to make this water available. So, and that's the philosophy of the new cities, almost all of them, that you don't represent a burden or a load on our already loaded network for water supply, but you create and you develop your own water, same as electricity and so on. So you don't take, but you sustain yourself with your resources, and maybe even have surplus to give to other countries or other neighboring governments and so on. I understand that soon His Excellency will have a great opening in New Mansoura, and we're looking forward for that as a good example for a new smart green city that's underway.
Yes, definitely. They are cities for the future. They are cities that are going to change the face of life in Egypt, quality life for all Egyptians. There was a meeting with the president, very important meeting with government officials. They were talking about the civilized face of residential neighborhoods. How can we preserve that important civilized face of the residential neighborhoods? You remember, Dr. Naguib, that usually in the movies, the old movies, we also we used to praise very much
Yes.
the images of the residential neighborhoods. Today we are raising the efficiency of the infrastructure of those areas, and definitely I guess if we walk downtown we can see more of those great examples.
Yes. I'm one of people who start the day by going to downtown Cairo, and I enjoy it very much. And the viewers or anyone who visits downtown Cairo now will see so many signs of beauty. First, preserving the old heritage. Some of the buildings over there, architects would talk about that passionately, have some architecture that maybe disappeared from all over the world, some of which come from between the two world wars, the Belle Epoque, where things were extremely beautiful, fair forge, nice of kind of balconies, halls and so on. Unfortunately, they were neglected for a number of years. Now, if you go there, you will see a good plan for development. Many of them have been actually developed and been renovated. The viewers, if they go by the aqueduct that goes to Salah ad-Din's citadel, which we call it in Arabic, Sur Magra al-Ayun, you will see a completely new area. I'm glad that you give me the chance to talk about this, and because in the report they talk about informal settlements and trying to alleviate that.
Yes.
Of course, taking the human factor into consideration. You just don't abolish them unless you provide housing for the people who live there. The area behind Sur Magra al-Ayun or the Cairo aqueduct had some of the congested area with the industry that has to do with leather and dyeing and so on. It was not healthy at all, the way it looks. Hygienic. You know, now this whole area, and I know some of the people who are working there, they have been moved, given maybe more space, and you preserve not only how it looks, but the heritage and the history that goes with it.
Yes, definitely. This is also a great step on the road. COP27, powered by renewable energy and smart technology. We know that the fourth generation cities are featuring Egypt's newest architecture, built through sustainable and through green infrastructure as well. So in the COP, we are presenting solutions. It was great also, as you've mentioned, Professor Abu Zaid, that the youth themselves were presenting ideas. The youth in the core, and then,
yes,
you know, their professors and those who guide them. What sorts of ideas that were brilliant, you think, have been presented at COP by the youth?
I have seen beautiful youth ideas that were presented. I can think of so many of them, but many of them actually remain vividly in my memory. Of course, to teach people how to go green, planting trees, all sorts of trees in Egypt, and loving the green and preserving it. Another example with respect to trees, and I was actually talking about that today with some colleagues in the university. Colleagues are planting the mangrove tree that actually not only preserve green but will reduce pollution, help reduce pollution and reducing the carbon dioxide. The idea here is not only the plantation but how to bring the society to take that as a project, to embrace it, to guard it as something that will expand in the future. Many ideas actually had to do with how we use far less water, energy in everything we're doing. If I were to give you a simple calculation, since you're talking about the green cities and sustainable cities, a smart city today should have the same individuals like in another city, but at least saving like 30 or 40% of the resources. People who are opening the water tap, this will disappear. Everything will be drip, whether it's irrigation, whether it's home and so on. Those little things, when you add them together, and many of them are actually big, you're saving and preserving nature, resources, and putting it into a better use. The kind of industries you're talking today, and in the other report about the Prime Minister and talking about the technology and IT. How would IT be in a new city? And COP27 talked about that.
Yes.
You will move smartly and smoothly with far less effort, because the IT support in a new city will enable you to do this.
Yes, the new cities are also, we're fortunate to have those new cities because definitely they are contributing to adding new job opportunities, and we need that. We're talking also business productivity. We need that as well, the increase also of the value of tourism.
Exactly.
So all that combined makes it a successful equation.
Yes, and I'll catch the word you said here, combined. Egypt is going, thanks God, into different parallel tracks. You're talking about infrastructure projects, which is actually supporting the smart cities and the new establishment and so on. When we were little kids at school, we used to learn Egypt is living in only or utilizing only 3% of its 1 million plus square kilometer. Now, as we speak today, we're talking about 8%, which is 2.5 times what it used to be there. If God gives us long life and we meet in 2040 or 2050, we're talking about much more than that, because the horizontal growth as well as the good utilization of these areas enable us to live a better life and utilizing our resources. I'm glad also you mentioned tourism. I have some exposure to people in the hotel industry the last few days. Almost, alhamdulillah, knock on wood, all hotels are almost full capacity now. So tourism is picking up. And again, you started by talking, and rightly so, about COP27. COP27 is over as an event, but look at the many people who want to visit Egypt, to go to Sharm el-Sheikh and go to Luxor and Aswan and this whole area, just as an example.
Yes.
Even in Cairo, as we speak today. So this is boost to the economy. Let's not forget, Egypt is the first economy and the most diverse economy in the continent of Africa. So we're blessed with that, and despite all the difficulties and the challenges, some real positive attributes are taking place.
Yes. On the land of the Great Pyramids of Giza, Egypt's new construction boom is underway, transforming this historic city through a hyper-connected network of energy-efficient communities and providing quality of life and quality jobs and sustainable living environments. Talking, Professor, sustainability and engineering, talking the matter of how engineering can serve the environment today in a healthier way.
Yes.
In a quality way.
Yes. A question that will take me long time to
Lectures.
talk about. Yes, because it's a beautiful topic and a much needed one to talk about. You mentioned a few minutes ago talking about civilized, land of civilization. You posed the question with the land of pyramids and so on. Before I just go about what's happening today, the ancient Egyptians, when they were building, I have to say, in a much healthier way than the rest of us have done over the past few decades, using natural materials wisely. Although there were few people compared to us in terms of population, they were using far less water. It was a crime, and a real crime, to pollute the water of the Nile. It was in their prayers how good they were.
The eternal Nile.
And they are right, and they talk with pride about that. So the engineering projects today have to be sustainable, and we have to instill that in our students, in our practice. It's not just the talk of it. I want to say something that, just to make the comparison, and I share that with my students. I want to say that I entered the university as an undergrad and I graduated. We rarely use the word environment. We rarely use the word environment. And I joke with my students. I said, when I started writing it, I realized there is a letter N in it because we didn't use to write this word. So we have done something not very right in the past, and we have to correct. I'm not talking about us in here, I'm talking about the whole world. We were in a big race to produce. The engineering part, we're talking about let's produce, and let's not, or we didn't look at the waste or the CO2 emission and the increase in temperature and the other, and the human angle of all of that, the pollution that happened in many parts in the world, and some diseases, heaven forbid. So it's part in our practice. It has to be part in our belief and our, let's say, heritage that we leave for the next generations to follow on.
Yes, talking, Professor, glowing in the dark concrete. Usually people would question what's glowing in the dark.
Yes.
If they're going to know that this is considered to be like a self-luminous concrete. And this was a project under your guidance and leadership, and it was hitting headlines because as if you anticipated that we have to work for the environment and in preparation for COP, but many months before.
Yes, that's one of the, let's say, projects that I take special pride in working on it with my students, and I take the opportunity to recognize them, four ladies, and salute them for their work. I happen to be meeting coincidentally with one of them today, discussing future steps about this project. They are all great ladies. I want to talk here about
great ladies, huh?
Great ladies,
yes,
definitely.
Yes, so
definitely.
They are all great ladies among Azimat Masr. They are all great ladies, women empowerment in engineering.
Exactly, and actually we joke with them. I say to them that perhaps we shouldn't put any man in any group in the future. If ladies, when they get together, they make this good
wonderful
work.
Things.
Yes. Yeah. So the work they were doing was attracted. I have to really objectively answer your beautiful question again. Why it attracted attention? Because first of all, it was done in Egypt. It was done by students who wanted to think beyond the obvious or outside the box. Use materials available locally, even if it's some of which is important, and doing readings. They did not start from scratch, and trying to bring something that makes use of this great sun of Egypt and solar energy, and to give some light and some illumination and some glowing that would reduce the load and the consumption of the traditional electricity and the resources we have. And again, like you mentioned, it fits perfectly into the COP27 and any COP and climate change efforts. I want to recognize so many other work that has been done, not only by me, but my colleagues, by many other students that were done, not only actually in my university. I had good exposure with all of them. Some other students of mine used the time of COVID and said, what will happen to this waste material that we have from the COVID, the masks and the gloves and so on, and they used it successfully to put it into other building material. What I admire the most about these ideas is that you see a contemporary problem or issue and you try to deal with it, and you turn it from something negative into something that's positive. And that's the brilliance of any project of that sort.
Yes, the brilliance of the projects also comes from the fact that since we are digitizing, the world is, of course, going to be in a revolution regarding the use of robotics. And robotics are going to change the face of life around the whole world. We'll see a robot reading the news, maybe in my place presenting a show. However, if we're talking robotics and artificial intelligence and construction engineering, will resorting to robotics and artificial intelligence, in your opinion, and since we do have the issue of labor shortage, solutions in the field of construction engineering today, will it solve the problem?
Of course, it will solve big side of problems that we all as human beings confront. Robotics are not only they are currently being used heavily in so many industries. If I were to pick one of them, the IT and the automobile industry and the aerospace industry. There is no, in the big automobile industry, you wouldn't see a worker going like this or welding like that. It's done by robots. If I were to extend that to include this nice question, I would say yes, they are replacing or doing the job of other untrained labor and or unskilled labor. But that does not mean that they should continue to take over completely. We have a mission towards the upgrading of the skills of our labor. Who will supervise these robots? Who will put the programs for the production, not only in a day, but in a
So we need the brains of the flesh and blood, definitely.
And we have to, like we invest in robots, we have to invest in upgrading the skills of our labor.
Yeah.
And since we're talking how great Egypt is throughout the history, and inshallah will continue to do like that, several nations, when they occupied Egypt, the first thing they've done is to take from Egypt the skilled labor to their own countries, because that's the real fortune. That's what makes civilization, that's what makes development.
Yes, and this happened, of course, with Africa. We know that Egyptian companies were leading companies in the construction in Africa as well.
One of the big dams in Tanzania is being done in a healthy way. It's done in Tanzania with Egyptian labor, with Egyptian design, with Egyptian contracting companies. So again, another example of something that can be done in a positive way internationally, in a good cooperative manner.
Yes. Today in the world of construction engineering, we have new materials in the construction industry addressing concerns in the world concerning affordability and also sustainability. And I guess one of your lectures, Professor Abu Zaid, has focused on this important point. How can we have new materials affordable and sustainable?
Yes. How lovely the questions are. Yes, materials that are used in construction nowadays, we talked about smart, we talked about less pollution, we talked about renewable. One thing we all talk about, and I happened to be talking about this last night in a lecture for my graduate students, if you have a building made with certain materials, we should be able to get closer to the point that once we abandon this building, we disassemble it and take all the components of which and we use it elsewhere for the longest time possible. It would not stay forever, of course. So here we're talking about a new way, not only of having the materials, but how to use them. If you and I, in our apartments or our villa and our house, do some remodeling, look at the amount of trash and waste that goes out of it. This should never be the case. And where does that go ultimately? Go to landfills and been thrown away, and somebody will pick it up one day. I have to deal with this problem again. We will not give our problems to the new generation. On the contrary, we'll leave them good opportunities and leveled land and future to build their beautiful horizon on that kind of opportunity.
Yes, we are talking opportunities. A final question, since we're talking opportunities, we're talking also opportunities how to build on another planet And I guess that was also one of the projects that has been presented before. It's really very interesting to see out-of-the-box ideas.
Yes.
How can we build on a planet that no one has ever stepped on before? What does this
Yes.
require?
Well, first, well, it requires some people who are bold and brave about the idea.
Creative.
And creative. And I don't mean here only myself giving an idea to and share it with my students. Heaven forbid, that's not my intention. But I want to say my students who accepted to take that challenge, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are down doing the work there. If this show is recorded and for the future, and somebody plays it 200 years from now, people will look and say, see, people were not even sure that we'll live on Mars, and this will be broadcast somewhere in Mars or in Venus or some other planet. Every trajectory says, every prediction said, sooner or later human beings will be on another planet. Of course, I wouldn't go to the extreme and say other individuals will come from other planets and live with us, but it's going to happen. When people criticize this work, or if somebody wants to criticize this work, say, why would you think about that? We have not really solved the problem on our planet. No, but we are training ourselves for something far in the future with far
to go
bigger,
beyond boundaries.
Exactly, and the challenges are different. On the moon and in these planets, temperature changes, for example, several hundred degrees.
So what sort of material, for instance, would be suitable for Mars?
I'll give you a good example for that. Our student picked some kind of rocks to build with that exist on planet Mars that we could find here on our planet, blue planet Earth. Why and how they do that? Because they relied on information coming from NASA and all the expeditions that took place there. So, because you are not going to go there carrying your material to build with, but you would rather use what's there to build a better and easier future with all the challenges encountered.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Mohamed Naguib Abu Zaid, thinking out of the box and encouraging students also to think out of the box. We'll go to Mars with a sense of creativity, with a sense of will and determination, and encouraging the youth to make a difference, and encouraging them, encouraging their ideas, you know, being behind them with all your zeal and all your strength. Professor Dr. Mohamed Naguib Abu Zaid, Professor of Construction Engineering at AUC. Thank you so much for joining Nile TV International and Wednesday Debate Live with Taghreed Hussein.
Thank you.
And I thank you, dear viewers, for joining us. That was Wednesday Debate. Tomorrow, another team. Until then.